I'm doing my claim. The claim I'm refuting is that banning the ownership of firearms will fail to decrease the amount of murders via firearms. My opponent's claims were that many gun-related crimes are committed with illegally obtained weapons or weapons that are already not permitted by law. And many gun-free zones, cities, and countries have very high firearm-related crime rate, and legal firearms can prevent the misuse of other firearms. I'd like to claim that the advocate uses inefficient evidence and fails to bring up bigger issues relating gun crime. For the advocate's first claim that many gun-related crimes are committed with illegally obtained weapons, he has two secondary claims to support it. One of them being that lawful gun owners commit less than 1/5 of gun-related crimes, and the next being a small number of illegal gun dealers are responsible for a large portion of guns used in crimes. I found that these claims were true, but my opponent failed to mention that gun owners commit most of the mass murders in America. In the last Las Vegas massacre, Stephen Padlock legally owned 47 guns and murdered 58 people. And in Florida, Nicholas Cruz murdered 70 people, and he legally had the gun as well. And a NBC News report said that 82% of weapons involved in mass shootings were bought legally. This statistic came from Mother Jones database, who have a full set of investigation into mass shootings. These mass shooters legally own the guns and have the intention to kill whoever is in sight and don't care how many people they kill. Last year, it was the deadliest year for mass shootings. There were 14,000 people killed and 29,000 people injured, according to the gun violence. Now for my advocate's second claim, he said that many gun-free zones, cities, and countries have high related crime rate. He has two secondary claims to support it. One is that Chicago has the toughest gun laws in the country and still has high firearm-related crime rate. And Britain's firearm ban has a very high crime rate after the ban. However, my opponent used facts from 1976 to support his claim that in Chicago it has the toughest gun laws in the country, but still has a high crime rate. We are in 2018, where states with strict gun laws have fewer firearm deaths. For example, in an article from CNBC submitted in February 2018, the relationship between gun laws and firearm death is compelling. Alabama, Alaska, and Louisiana have lightly regulated gun laws, and the rate of deaths per 100,000 is more than four times higher than New York, Connecticut, Hawaii, and Massachusetts, who have the strictest in the country. Massachusetts has 104 firearm-related laws and has 3.4 deaths per 100,000, while Alaska has the lowest amount of gun-related laws, which is 4, and they have 23.3 firearm deaths per 100,000. My opponent also claimed that Britain's firearm homicide rate increased drastically after their firearm ban and is consistently higher prior to the ban. However, I found that it decreased drastically. In Great Britain, after the 1996 Dunblane massacre, there was an introduction to tighter gun laws, and according to a news article of the Dunblane massacre, gun homicides peaked at 84 across the UK and was the most on record. And today the killings have dropped almost a third. And in 2012, the police recorded 30 gun homicides, 12 fewer than the last year. This was the lowest record since the National Crime Recording Standard that was introduced in 2002. And according to CNN News Report, there has been one mass shooting since the laws were tightened back in 1996. My opponent also had one last major claim, that was legal firearms can prevent misuse of other firearms. He had two supporting claims. One is potential murderers may be deterred from murdering for fear of an opponent carrying a legal firearm, and murders in action can be stopped by a firearm carrying bystander. I found that the reasoning and evidence in this argument is very vague. The advocate barely explained how legal firearms can prevent misuse of other firearms, and he just restated his supporting claims that potential murderers would be deterred because of fear from an opponent carrying a legal firearm, and murders in action can be stopped from a firearm carried by a sinner. However, I found evidence to support that mass shooters don't care if they come out of the mass shooting alive or dead. In the Washington Post, and the 47 mass shootings between 1982 and 2018, 47 of those committed suicide and one was killed by a bystander. Researchers found that majority of mass shooters are suicidal at the time of their attacks. For example, with the shooting in Florida, Nicholas Cruz had a history of suicidal thoughts and statements. However, he changed his line last minute and survived. The claim that I was refuting today is that banning ownership of firearms will fail to decrease the amount of murders via firearms. The advocate said that many gun-related crimes are committed with illegally obtained weapons, but failed to mention that 82% of mass shootings are committed by legal gun owners. He also said that many gun-free zones have high firearm-related crime, but I found that states with strict gun laws have fewer firearm deaths, and Britain's firearm homicide rate actually decreased in 1996. The advocate also claimed that legal firearms can prevent the misuse of other firearms. However, I found that only one bystander out of 47 mass shootings since 1982 through 2018 killed a mass shooter. The advocate lacked sufficient evidence that involves how banning firearms will fail to decrease murders.
All right, it's well structured. I see all the points that the advocate is presenting being explained. Sometimes maybe they're explained a little too much. You can probably paraphrase a little more and be more efficient in the way you're responding. The argument on the first point talks about the fact that the guns used in mass killings were legally obtained. So the question then becomes, is there a way to regulate those and prevent those from being utilized? I'm not exactly sure that the two arguments are contradictory to one another. They could both be true, but I do understand the way that this attempts to mitigate and diminish the significance of the advocate's claim on that particular point. On the second point, you basically challenge the Chicago example by suggesting that the data is old. I don't know, if that's what the data was, if that's what the advocate cited, 1976. That does seem like it's old data, or is it the law that was passed in 1976 and then they're reflecting what Chicago is like today? I'm not exactly sure on that. You've got counter evidence that talks about states with different kinds of firearm laws, and I think that works pretty effectively to support the claim that you're presenting that suggests that restrictions can be effective in reducing crime. And then the Great Britain data is also pretty good. It seems to go contrary to what the advocate was talking about on that particular point. The last point, I think you've got a good challenge on the vagueness of the argument. I don't mean to, sometimes it's just a simple lack of familiarity. Dieter is a guy from Germany. Deterrence is the word that you're looking at, And hey, it's just a pronunciation thing. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Okay. A little overtime, too.